Hey kids, welcome to lesson 7.2, Arraylist Methods. The following are the Arraylist methods that you need to know for the AP CSA exam. These are included in the AP CSA Java Quick Reference Sheet that you will receive during the exam, so you do not have to memorize them. But kids, you should know them. The E in the method headers below stand for the type of the element in the array list. This E type can be an object type. We will look at how these methods work below. And here's the 6 that you have to remember. We have the int size, returns the number of elements in a list. The boolean add appends objects to the end of the list and returns true. E remove, this removes the item at the index and shifts the remaining items to the left. Void add moves any current objects at index or beyond to the right and inserts objects at the index. Get returns the item in the list at the index. Set replaces the item at index with object. Kids, these next couple of lessons are going to teach us about these things, but for the exam, no, these are important. Size. As we saw in the last lesson, you can get the number of items in an array list using the size method. The array list starts out empty with a size of 0. And here's how we create an empty array list here, kids. So if you look, we've seen this before. We have our array list, strings with our little alligators this time, the variable, new array list, and then the data type as well. We're going to print out the size, or we print out list size right there. Note with arrays, you will use the length field to get the number of items in the array, but with an array list, you will use the size method to get the number of items in an array list. You will not be penalized if you mix up length and size in the CSA exam. The number of items in an empty array list is 0. It's a good thing to know. Just remember, kids, in an array list, you should really use size. Won't be penalized for the dot length. You can add values to an array list by using the method addObject, which will add the object to the end of the list, just like you would join the end of the line to board a bus. And hopefully, kids, you're all really nice when you join the bus and go to the back of the line and wait your turn. Run the code below to see how the list changes as each object is added to the end. Notice that we added the same string to the list more than once. Lists can hold duplicate objects. Can you add your name to the list and print out the list? I'm sure I can, kids. Let's look at this code before we run it. We have our main method here. We have our array list called nameList. It is a string. We are adding to the list. So nameList right here, .add. That's how we're adding, if you remember, kids. We're adding Diego, printing off the list. Adding Grace, printing off the list. Adding Diego, printing off the list. And then we're getting the size. That means, kids, it should print off Diego, Diego Grace, Diego Grace, Diego. And then it should say 3. Let's see if I'm right, kids. Diego, Diego Grace, Diego Grace, Diego. And we want to add our name. All right, kids. Let's come down here. Let's go to namelist.add. That's the list we want to add to. Let's add Mr. Rhodes. And then we'll do a system println name list. Now we should get an extra line that says Diego Grace Diego Rhodes, and the size should be 4. Well, let's see if I'm right. I got an error, kids. I already can see what it is. I forgot my quotation mark at the end. Let's run that again. There we go. We got Diego, Diego Grace, Diego Grace, Diego, Diego Grace, Diego, Mr. Rhodes, and then there's a 4 in there. Looks like they wanted us to add your name, and we put the Mr. in there, but that's pretty good. Let's see if we just take away the Mr. part here. So I think it's just looking for single names. And there you go. Just be careful what you enter there. Could trip up the auto grader. When adding integer objects to the list, you can use the integer constructor like add new integer 5 in Java version 7, which is used on the exam. Although this is depreciated and no longer used in Java version 9, or you could just add the int value directly like add 5 in any Java version, and it will be changed into an integer automatically. This is called auto unboxing. When you pull an int value out of a list of integers, this is called unboxing. And this is an important concept there, kids. So just remember that. So when you add an integer, it's auto boxing. And when you pull an int value out, it is unboxing. And here's just an example of how we add ints. And I'm sure we're going to do some work here in a second. You can put any kind of objects into an array list, even objects for a class that you wrote. For example, here's an array list of students. An example of array list of students. Add a new student with your name and info in there. Let's take a look at this code here. We have a student list. We have our static void right here, and it is a new array list. It has a student object. The list is called roster, and it's a new array list. And we can add to that object student here, Skylar at sky.com, and then Anya at gmail.com. And then we print. So if we call to this public static main here, we get this to print off. Here is that student object that it's referring to here. And the student object is, you've seen this a ton of times. All of Unit 5 was this, kids. This is just our class. We have our private instant variables, our constructor. We're setting our constructor to our variables. And then we have our print method here. So we should get the ID first, name, and email. That means when I print it off, we should get the phone number, name, email. Let's go ahead and hit save and run. There you go. Number, and then name, email. And if we want to add another one, kids, it's pretty easy. We already have the template up there. We're just going to go roster add new to which object student. Who are we adding? We're going to add Rhodes. My email. Well, if you ever want to email the channel, nrteched@gmail.com. And our phone number here, 555-5555. Go ahead and give that a call, kids. Now when I hit print, I should get the same thing now, 555-5555, Rhodes, and our YouTube email. Let's see if I'm right. There you go. Our phone number, name, and email. That's how we add to an object. Pretty neat and useful if you ask me, kids. There are actually two different add methods in the ArrayList class. The add object method, which adds the past object to the end of the list, and the add index and then the object. So we pick the spot and the object. This method adds the past object at the past index, but first moves over the existing values to higher indices to make room for the new object. So we're shifting stuff over, kids. What will the code below print out? Try figuring it out before running it. Remember that ArrayList starts at index 0 and that add index object always has the index as the first argument. Ooh, that's a mouthful. Let's take a look at this code. Looks like we have an array list. It's an integer list. It's called list1. And we're going to go 1. And then we're going to print off list1. And then it should go to 2. So it should say 1, 2. And then system print off list1. And then down here, kids, so I have right now 1, 2. We are adding to the index 1 3. That means 0, 1. So now it should go 1, 3, 1. And then we will add the number 4 at index 1. And that before was 1, 3, 2. It should be 1, 4, 3, 2, I think. Whew. That was a lot, kids. I don't know if I got my numbers right there. Oh, the last part, I didn't see that, kids. It's also going to give the size of the list. We have 4, so we should get 4. Let's see if I'm right. 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 4, 3, 2 with a 4. Kids, I think that's actually what I said. Just remember, the first one is the index. The second one is the number we're inserting. Common mistake I see is to get these flip-flopped. Don't get them flip-flopped, kids. Here's a note. Arraylist, like arrays, start numbering their elements from 0. What will print when the following code executes? Well, it looks like the one above there, kids. We have our array list. It's an integer list, and it's called list1. We're adding 1 to it. We're adding 2. We're adding 3. And then we're adding 4 at position 2. 0, 1, 2. Means it should go 1, 2, 4, 3. Then we're adding 5, and then we're printing off the list. 1, 2, 4, 3, 5. That's C. That should be right. Yay! What will the following code print off? Well, we have an array list here. It's a string called list1. We're adding to the list 1, Anya. Then we're adding Layla. Then we're adding Sherry. And then at position 1, 0, 1, we're adding Sarah. So it should go Anya, Sarah, Layla, Sherry, and then we're printing off the list. Anya, Sarah, Layla, Sherry. Well, that's A. I think is that one. You can also remove values from an array list by using the remove index to remove the item at the given index from the list. This will move all the other items in the underlying array and decrease the size of your array list by 1. So just remember that, kids. Take stuff away. Make sure you don't have it hard-coded in. What will the following code print out? Try to guess before you run it. List add 1, list add 2, list add 3, so I should get 1, 2, 3, print off the list. List remove 1. What does this 1 refer to? Well, this is the position, 0, 1. That means I should get just 1 and 3 printed off. 1, 2, 3, and then 1 and 3. Just remember when we do remove, it is the index, kids, the index. Note the remove integer index method will remove the object at the index and shift any values to the right of the current index. It doesn't remove the object that matches the integer value given. In the example above, it doesn't remove the value 1, it removes the value 2 at index 1. And just remember that, kids, that's an important part to note there. What will the following code print off? We have a list here. It's an integer list called list1. We're adding 1, 2, 3, and then we're removing a 2. 0, 1, 2. And then we're printing off. Well, that means I should just get 1, 2. 1, 2 is number C. Well, that should be it, kids. In Arraylist Git Set Methods, you can get the object at an index using the object list get name index. And that's pretty important, kids. So we can get an object there, and whatever the list name is, we can use the get at the index there. And set the object at the index using the list name set. So we have a get and a set method. Set and get are used after you add and remove elements to an array list to change or retrieve them. Notice the array lists use set or get methods instead of using the square brackets array index. And that's definitely a difference, kids. This is because ArrayList is a class with methods that provide access to the underlying array. So again, kids, that's another difference between an array and an array list. You might see something like this on the exam. Try to guess what the code will print out below before running it. Can you get the last element in the names list to print off? Can you set the first element in your list to your name and print out the list? Ooh, that sounds fun, kids. We have an array list here. It's a string. It's a name list. We are adding Diego. We're adding Grace. We're adding Deja. We're printing off the name list. That means we should get Diego, Grace, Deja. Then we're printing off the name list get 0. That should be Diego. Then we're getting the one at 1, 0, 1. That should be Grace. And then we are setting the list at 1, 0, 1, John, and then we're printing off the list. So then it should go Diego, John, Grace, Deja. Ooh, let's see if I'm right, kids. And there we go. We got Deja, printed off the name Diego, printed off the name Grace. Ooh, and down here, it replaced what was at the first position. So be aware of that. The set changed 1 from Grace to John. So I was wrong. It didn't add it in, it set it. And that's an important difference to remember, kids. So that's a good lesson right there. Well, we have to do a couple of things here. Can you set the first element in the list to your name and print off the list? Well, I think we can do that, kids. We can do a name list add, and we can do, well, we can just do our regular one. We can do position and then the name. So we can do 0, roads. And can we get the last element in the names list to print off? Well, last element, I believe, is going to be Deja no matter what. Do a system.out.println. And on this one, we are going to do the name, what's lowercase, name list get. And this is going to be at position 2, like that. And that'll pull Deja. Let's hit save and run. Oh, we didn't get the right one because we added. That means it shouldn't be 2. It should be 3. Now we're printing off the Deja one. So be careful of your index, kids. I added a name, and I have to make sure I'm getting the right part of it. Well, kids, let's go back here. I think we have to use the name set method here like we did here. So let's go to namelist.set and let's put that in at 0. Let's hit save and run. And we got our name with our part there. And we have to get the last part. And I think this is a order of operations here. I think our name list has to print off at the end here. Oops. Let's move that up here. Hit return. Then hit save and run. There we go. And we're printing off Deja in the order there. And that's, I think, what they wanted. So again, make sure you're using the set method in this one. And also make sure you're printing off the name list afterwards. What will the following code print off? We have a list integer. It's list 1. We have some sets and adds here, so we have to be careful, kids. We have 1, 2, 3. And then we are setting 2 to 4. 0, 1, 2. So it should be 1, 2, 4. Then we're adding 5 to 2. That means our list is getting pushed down. It should be 1, 2, 5, 4. We're adding 6. 1, 2, 5, 4, 6. 1, 2, 5, 4, 6. Well, that should be the right answer. Again, kids, important thing between add and set. I am sure you're going to see that on the exam. What will the following code print off? We have a list strings, a list 1. We are adding Anya to the list. We're adding Layla to the list. We're adding Sherry to the list. Anya, Layla, Sherry. We're setting 1, 0, 1 to Destiny. Anya, Destiny, Sherry. Then to 1, 0, 1, we're adding Sarah. It means our list should be Anya, Sarah, Destiny, Sherry. Anya, Sarah, Destiny, Sherry should be D. When do you use arrays and when do you use array lists? When you use an array, you want to store several items of the same type, and you know how many items will be in the array. And the items in the array won't change in order or number. Use an array list when you want to store several items of the same type, and you don't know how many items you need in the list, or you want to remove items or add items to that list while the program is running. And we have a little comparison down here between how to create arrays and array lists. Kids, this is good because I'm sure you're going to see questions like this on the exam. Again, you'll notice arrays. We have our data type, square brackets, variable, new, data type, and then the size of the array. In this one, we have array list. We have our wrapper class, variable, new, array list, wrapper class. And again, note, we have alligators, not square brackets. There's also some comparison on how to access and change elements. For the length, it's array.length. Array list, it's size length. To access, it's value equal the array at the index. It's value equal list.get at the index. You're seeing a little trend there, kids. And then to modify, it's the array at the index. And then we set it at the index, kids. Again, you shouldn't be penalized if you get a couple of these mixed up on the exam, but there will be questions, and those you will get penalized for not knowing. Note that ArrayList methods add and remove do not have a simple equivalent in arrays because they actually change the size of the underlying array and move elements over. Important note, kids. Please make sure you understand that. We have our programming challenge, array to array list. Rewrite the following code that uses an array to use an array list instead. In the comments, write what you think an array list is better data structure to use than an array for this problem. Well, let's take a look at the code we have here. We have a string, and this is an array form to-do list. Our string is 3 long, and at 0 is do homework. At 1, help make dinner. At 2, call grandma. And then we're changing the order at 1 to order pizza. Then it looks like we have a system print off. The length, things to do. Here's the first thing to do. It looks like we're printing off 0. And then this one, it looks like we are switching some elements around. And then printing off the next thing to do. And then we have our question. Let's save and run and see what happens here, kids. 3 things to do. The first one is homework. And then the next thing to do is to order pizza. That's when we put it in element 1. And this just moves our element around here. And then we are printing it off. And we still have our question. Well, kids, what we have to do is rewrite this into an array list, right? I'm going to use my multi-comment. And I'm going to do it part by part. And this first part here, I'm going to rewrite it to be an array list. Well, what's an array list look like, kids? You remember all the way up here, we have an array list, data type, name, new, array list, string. So that's what I'm going to do there. That means array list. It is a string. We're going to call this to do list. And that equals a new array list string like that. So that rewrites that first line right there. And we don't have to give it a size because we don't need to know, kids. Oop, should be a semicolon. Now we're going to add to that. And to this, we just do to do a list dot add. And we're going to add do homework. And then we're going to add to do a list, add help make dinner. Then to do a list dot add call grandma. And you should, kids. And we added the 3 like that. Now we're going to change the order of the elements. And to do this one, we need to do that set method, kids. You remember the set method. Just like this. That means we're going to do a list dot set what position 1, and what do we want to put in there? Order pizza. Like that. Well, then we're going to print off a to-do list length, but it's not length, kids. Remember, it is a size in this one to do first. And then here's the first thing to do. And this is not how we do it. We have to use that get method, kids. Remember that. The to do list dot get, and we want to get position 0 for that one. Now this is moving everything down, kids, and that's really complicated to do, right? Well, we can remove items are pretty easy in the other one because we can just do to do a list remove. And we want to remove the 1 at position 0. Look how much more convenient that code is, kids. Then we're going to print off, here's the next thing to do. Well, kids, again, we're not doing an array. We are doing our to do list, and we are doing get. And this time we can do whatever's at position 0 still because we removed it. And it makes it easy. And then we have, why is an array list better than an array to do for a to-do list? Well, kids, I think we just saw it with that remove. You can add to the list and remove items from the list as needed. And now I think if I hit run, I should get the same thing as below. Let's see. 3 things to do. First things, do homework, and then order pizza. So kids, that is the difference between an array and array list. This might seem like a super simple lesson, but it's very important. And it's one of the fundamental lessons between what the difference is between an array and an array list. So please take the time to understand it. We have our summary. The following array list methods include what they do and when they are used. They are part of the Java quick reference. And kids, we went over these above. Just know you have to know these 6 for the exam and how they work. They give you a reference sheet and that'll remind you, but you really have to understand what they do. So please take a minute and see how we've used these above, and we're going to use these on some other lessons coming up. But kids, again, you're going to need to know how to apply these on the exam. Well, I hope you found this video helpful, kids. As always, if you have any questions, come see me. Otherwise, I'll see you on the next video, kids. See you later. Bye. Bye.